This is time for our first panel discussion on emerging governance imperatives. And I have the pleasure of inviting Dr. Ashish Kumar Goyal, Director General, NRIDA and Joint Secretary, Ministry of Rural Development. He's been leading the national flagship scheme PMGSY from before COVID and did not allow it to suffer despite pandemic challenges. He's now piloting smart solutions to be integrated with the scheme, and the scheme is going notches. He was earlier Divisional Commissioner of Prayagraj. Welcome. Mr. Abhishek Singh, MD and CEO of Digital India Corporation and President and CEO of National E-Governance Division. He also served as the CEO of MyGov. He was Secretary of the Agricultural Scientist Recruitment Board, Government of India from June 19 to September 19. And he's been furthering the Digital India vision of the Honorable Prime Minister, bringing in his expertise in administration, implementing development programs, policy, and use of technology in improving governance. Mr. Sonmani Bora, Joint Secretary from Department of Land Resources, Ministry of Rural Development. He earlier held charge of Secretary to the Governor of Chhattisgarh, with additional charge as the Secretary, Department of Labor and Parliamentary Affairs for the state of Chhattisgarh. At the Department of Land Resources, he has been leading the unique land parcel identification number project that links all the land parcels with Aadhaar. I invite Dr. Neeta Verma, Director General IT, Election Commission of India. We heard she was the DG of NIC, spanning a career over 3.5 decades, and spearheaded the digital transformation initiatives through development of digital platforms for the government. Dr. Navaljeet Kapoor, Joint Secretary, Ministry of Tribal Affairs. Actually a doctor by profession, having served the chest and TB hospital in Ambala for 3 years before joining the Indian Revenue Service in 1992. E-governance at the Ministry of Tribal Affairs has been especially piloted by him, resulting in paradigm shift in monitoring from paper-based to data-based. He recently received the SKOCH Award for Project Empowerment of Tribals through digitalization of scholarship scheme on behalf of the ministry. And our last panelist, Mr. Bishnupada Sethi, Principal Secretary, Higher Education from Government of Odisha. He's made immense contributions to Odisha University Research and Innovation Incentivization Plan, Kalinga Sikhya Sathi Yojana, free of cost education, among several other projects. His contribution in mobilizing initiatives and incentives for the scholars undertaking research works in different and divergent areas is encouraging. On a lighter note, he is also a learned poet. So, ladies and gentlemen, big round of applause for our eminent panel, and I request all the panelists to kindly join me on stage. Welcome the distinguished panel, and good morning to all of you once again. In fact, when we discuss the emerging paradigms of governance, the biggest question that arises in front of us is that whatever laurels and the achievements that we have had, that is there to support our vision as well as the steps being taken moving forward. But now India at 75 and going at India at 100, which is the 2047, we have been thinking aloud. And the Amrit Kal, which is what our Honorable Prime Minister talked about, has given us an opportunity as well as posed serious challenges. Because so far, we have not been used to doing such a long-term planning, and the change is not going to come that easy. So the biggest question in front of us is that how is it that we plan for the short term, the mid-term, as well as the long term, so that the objectives that we set for India at 100 become achievable? Meaning to say that the road further ahead is definitely very smooth because we have the backing of the policy. But yes, there are challenges moving forward. So I'm going to be starting right from my extreme left. Now, Mr. Bora, I guess you also have to leave in between. So in fact, you are receiving an award elsewhere, and thank you so much for being with us. Sparing these precious moments. So in fact, I want to start with you when it comes to land records. The problems that we've been facing is that, there is a legacy in land records. There is a lot of, errors in the existing paper records that existed. I'm sure Neetaji will agree with me that the computerization of land records that started, it was only converting paper into computer. But we have come a long way, wherein we are now trying to integrate those records. We are trying to see how they become interoperable. We are also trying to see how is it that the litigations go down. And more than $200 billion of locked value, which is there in the litigations in the land, can be unlocked so that, it contributes to both, which is ease of doing business as well as ease of living. Mr. Bora. Shall I go there? You can go. Yeah, your choice.
A very good morning. Thank you, Gurucharanji, for giving this opportunity to speak little on the emerging governance imperatives. So I'll keep it very short, distinguished panelists, my seniors, and all the award winners present here from different states and departments. And I cannot see Samirji, but I must take this opportunity to compliment Samirji, Gurucharanji, and entire team for recognizing the beautiful initiatives, beautiful ideas, innovations across the country. So I'll be very brief. So when we talk about India and governance, so what comes to our mind? And when we look at the global scenario, you will see that India itself is a world of worlds. Actually, India has, because of its size or because of its population, because of the pluralism and the federal structure and the historical legacy, we'll see that most of the governance-related tools or initiatives or the legacies, traditions, you look at from any perspective, and you'll see that India actually doesn't require anything to follow from the outside world. Within India itself, there are beautiful initiatives, innovations, and traditions. However, in today's India, today's modern India, in 21st century, we need to also look at what the global community is also doing. So let us just look at, if we talk about United Nations, so what are the imperatives or the emerging trends for United Nations? They say that it is participation, rule of law, transparency, equity and inclusiveness, effectiveness and efficiency, accountability to assess good governance. So these are the parameters for global standard as far as United Nations is concerned. When you look at sovereign credit rating, as enumerated by World Bank, they also have 6 parameters or indicators. These indicators are voice and accountability, political stability and absence of violence, government effectiveness, regulatory quality, rule of law, control of corruption. And within these indicators, they have a lot of sub-theme layers as well. I mean, how they actually calculate these indicators and came out with an index and ranking. And in today at Government of India, we all know that WGI is also extremely important, and most of the ministries and departments, in collaboration with states and UTs, they have been working on this. Now the third part, as our moderator, Gurucharanji, has already pointed out rightly, that we have just completed 75th year of independence. from British, of course, from colonialism. We have a legacy of thousands of years of Indian civilization. But when you talk about political independence from the colonial past, so we have already completed 75 years and we are going ahead. And as there is a clarion call for next 25 years, what is the vision of India at 75? So what I can jot down that these things actually emerge. These are the imperatives for a good governance system. It has to be whatever policy, whatever program, whatever innovations, whatever process re-engineering, whatever we do, it has to be aimed at ultimately citizen is the core or the central of your act. So that means that citizen-centric policy, innovations, and program is the key, which will actually ensure ease of doing business as well as ease of living for the citizens. So this imperative is the core of all other imperatives, I think. Then comes, because as we are a vibrant nation with a young population now, so there's a lot of galvanization into new ideas. So that means we also need to look at innovation. That is another imperative at the Amrit Kal, that is the innovation, that how many innovations, how much innovation, how qualitatively we can innovate the things which actually concern us, our country, our development. Then comes the another imperative, that is the adaptation to new technology or techniques. So India is again vibrant with in the IT industry, and I'll just mention that the iconic path-breaking thing have just recently happened in India. That is the liberalized geospatial policy of 2022, and how the policymakers, how the administrator, how the all stakeholders in the governance system harness the potential that is unleashed by this new geospatial policy is going to be deciding the fate for next 25 years. Because it's a huge country, more than 1.3 billion people, so technology can actually bring in a lot of solutions, transparency, accountability, whatever parameters, global parameters or national parameters we talk about, the technology can actually can be a catalyst and bring in those parameters into reality. Then there is a huge paradigm shift in the outlook of the governance system itself. Now we are talking about that it's not just not rule-based, it is a role-based. Bhumika, finally, what is your role? Finally, rule is there, but what is going to be your role? That is also extremely important. So there is a paradigm shift from rule to role, then fit for purpose to fit for future. So that means we also need overhauling of our capacity. How we are going for a efficiency as well as capacity building and effectiveness for next 25 years or beyond. So that is where actually the governance system has to now look at. And to summarize, whatever we do, all these initiatives or activities, the fruits of all such innovations, activities, or the programs, how these can be brought into one platform and to be used as a force multiplier. So that is the core of, I think, the theme in this Amrit Kal. That is why now we are talking about that there is the departments, the states, the UTs, or the stakeholders need not work in isolation or in silos. There has to be a concerted effort. We call it the whole of the government approach. I think this is a huge shift. This is a huge shift. And I will also like to talk about, there is a Panch Pran by clarion call from our Honorable Prime Minister. So I think there is a paucity of time, so I'm not going into detail. To conclude that this new geospatial policy is one, then we also need to keep in mind the climate change challenges. How our policy, our program, our design, our analysis have to be actually kept in mind that how we are going to tackle this climate change. In a nutshell, since I also represent a department, I'd like to speak two lines. One, that my department, we administer two very key important acts. One is the Land Acquisition Act of 2013 and also the Registration Act. Apart from that, under the Digital India Initiative, we are administering Digital India Land Records Modernization Program. In India, we have more than 6.5 lakh villages. The digitization, computerization of all the land records, the digitization of the cadastral maps, which is 1.68 crore in the country, or the FMBs.
Mr. Bora, if I may ask you to
conclude. I'll just conclude. So this digitization is already taking place. Alpin, he has already talking about. There is a e-registration process. Multilingual record of rights are actually coming up now. Anytime we are going to roll out. And we're also creating a geo portal for Pan India, where all the cadastral maps will be deposited in one platform. So all these initiatives are actually aimed at for the citizens, ease of living, ease of doing business, for all stakeholders, and unlocking of the economy. I think with these words, I'll conclude here. Once again, thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Bora. In fact, that takes me to the other aspect of the land, which is the rural roads. So, Dr. Goyal, and we are into the third phase of PMGSY, and also with the infusion of technology, we're now talking about smart solutions, we're looking at performance dashboards and taking it to the next level, so that the process not only gets additional funding, which is what anyway has been given this year, but also it accelerates. So what is it that we see the emerging paradigm when it comes to the expansion of the rural infrastructure?
Thank you, Mr. Dhanjal, for inviting me here. I am thankful to Mr. Kocher and SKOCH Group. Thank you. And I welcome all the esteemed panelists and distinguished guests. I'll come straight away. There are many emerging governance paradigms. Some of them are increased use of IT, which you have been hearing for last, I think, 2-3 decades. But AI, ML, now ChatGPT is going. So on one hand, AI, ML, ChatGPT and such developments are going to disrupt how we work, how the workplaces work. But at the same time, it is our challenge how to utilize, how to harness their capabilities for governance. I'll give you a live example of PMGSY. We have used AI and ML in a very innovative way. Number one, when we are selecting projects, how do we select projects? Boraji has talked about geospatial technology. So all our proposals are mapped onto GIS. The government of India has launched Gati Shakti. We have been doing that in PMGSY 3 since 2019. So all our proposals are mapped onto GIS. We are able to see whether those roads are actually required or not, whether those roads are the best selection of the roads which needed to be upgraded. They will benefit the maximum population, connect the maximum number of facilities, and carry the maximum traffic in the rural area. So that is how we have been able to select projects for PMGSY 3 so that they give fillip to rural economy. Number two, once you have selected the project, whether the DPR is good or bad, whether it is padded with superfluous provisions and we are spending public money on that. So we created a ML tool. All the DPRs, their data is fed onto our MIS, And by smart scrutiny of those DPR, we could cull out those DPRs which needed to be scrutinized further. And when we scrutinize them further, we have been able to save, mind you, 7,000 crores in just last 2 years. That is more than 15% of the project cost, without compromising on the quality or specifications of those roads. One can very well say that we have reduced the quality or we have reduced the specs. No, without reducing the specs, without reducing the quality, we have been able to save 15% of the project cost. So that is how my ML tool, which costed me nothing, which has given me that kind of a dividend. So have a strong IT team with good data analytics, with good AI and ML people, they will save you a lot of money. Number 3, climate change. Whether we agree or not, of course, the climate change debate has taken a beating due to Ukraine war, etc. But the world will come back to this issue of using appropriate technologies so that we can retard climate change and global warming. In PMGSY 3, we have gone in a big way in adopting new technologies actually in the field. IT is in the office, new technologies are actually there in the field. In more than 7,000 kilometers, we have sanctioned using full depth reclamation technology. What it entails is, it obviates mining of new material. The old material which is already there in the road, it is dug up using microprocessor controlled, computer controlled machines, then mixed with cement and some additives, and then it is rolled back with the same machines, and it does not need any new material to be added to the road. So the road level does not increase, the same road, the material is recycled, and it is of a much better quality because each and every process of road building is machine controlled, and at each and every process there is a testing. So UP is building more than 5,500 kilometer roads. They have now been built, and the public's acceptance is like that people want, that we want this machine built road, not the conventional road. So that is the acceptance of technology and climate change. Because there is no mining, there is no transportation of material, there is no hot processes involved in that, so it has a climate change impact. 4th, data, big data. How do we use such a big data that we have with the government for public's use? In PMGSY, we had collected geolocated data for 1 million habitations, 7 lakh facilities, 25 lakh kilometers of roads, and 32 layers we had collected. We have opened this data to the public under the open data policy, and more than 20,000 downloads of that data have occurred by researchers, and MapMyIndia is using that data, ESRI is using that data, many private startups and other businesses are using that data, and they are creating solutions for the businesses, for the citizens of this country. And let me reveal you, most of the commercial map apps that commercial organization use, they use MapMyIndia or Indian apps, they all use PMGSY data, which is much richer than what you find in Google Maps. So these are certain things that I want to give insight to, that what the work we are doing, and these are the emerging paradigms. And with a disclaimer, these are not the only emerging paradigms. There are so many paradigms that they are emerging as more and more specialization is occurring in various fields. So newer paradigms will emerge, but they will also be cross-sectoral, and we can learn from each other. I once again thank you, SKOCH Group, for inviting me to give this exposure.
Well, thank you
very
so much. You know, this is an interesting perspective. We'll come back to you asking for more. Nita, if you may allow me, I'll ask one question from Dr. Kapoor. You know, Dr. Kapoor, the ministry that you are at, Ministry of Tribal Affairs, generally it is considered a sleepy ministry and has been a laggard. In last few years, there has been a remarkable and dramatic change. You know, right from creation of dashboards to DBT to, you know, linking all the schools, which is Eklavya, EMRS, and so on and so forth. This happens to be one of the best e-governed ministries today. How did it happen? How did the change come about? What's been the process or the government process re-engineering that you did?
Thank you, Dhanjalji. Sameerji, I'm seeing so many familiar faces here. When I took over in 2018, we didn't have any portal. We had only UC-based system. So there was more than a budget of more than 10,000 crore, but when I joined, I asked how many scholarships we are giving, what are the projects we give to the states, how many scholarships students are there, how many teachers we have in AMRS, where are these schools located, who are the officers working in different states. So we didn't have any database. So it was August 2018, my secretary told me, okay, on 15th of August, we have to ensure that all the areas of the scholarships, they have to be uh, given to the states. So when I started asking how many states areas are pending and what are their proposals, there was hardly anything, and every system was manual. So what we used to do, that was across government of India, there was a UC-based system. We give money to the states, and they give at the end of the year utilization certificate, paper-based certificate that we have spent so much. So we started developing portals. DBT mission came to our help. Then we started scholarship portal. On scholarship portal with the help of NIC and many agencies. So now we have every data of every student, and whatever the funds we give to the state, you can see it on our dashboard. Then the grants which we were giving to the states, we developed Adivasi grant management system. There also every fund which we are giving to the state and every project. So it is not only physical and financial progress is monitored on the portal, but it is in public domain. Everybody can see what are the projects which have been given. Likewise, we were giving grant to the NGO and scholarship to the students. So you can see in the corridor, the NGOs are sitting for 2 years, 3 years. There was hardly any transparency and accountability. We developed a portal of NGOs. So now the NGO can see where his project is lying. Even I get a call that my proposal is lying in such and such office for last 15 days or 20 days. So that was, then last of all, when COVID was there, we had a lot of time at that point of time, and we developed a performance dashboard. In performance dashboard, so all the outcomes, as Kocharji said, we give funds to the states, and at the we don't know what are the outcomes and how it has affected the public. So in the performance dashboard, you can see each and every scheme of the ministry and how the states are performing, which are the better performing states, how the funds have been utilized. So that is a performance dashboard and single platform where all the initiatives of the ministry and all the outcomes of the ministry and performance of different stakeholders, you can see that. I'm very thankful to the SKOCH that SKOCH gave us 5 awards for our different initiatives, and happy to say that our website was so poor that there was hardly any data available, and now Data Governance Quality Index of NITI Aayog, for last 2 years, we are one of the best performing ministry, and we are the 3rd ranker among all 75 ministries of Government of India. And just I'll take 1 minute if you permit. So if you see our budget announcements this year, there are majorly 3 budget announcements. One is PVTGs, PVTG mission, Prime Minister PVTG mission. There are 75 PVTGs across India. And even after 75 years, their development was very, very slow. So we are working on a 2047 mission vision document. And secondly, sickle cell anemia, where more than 10% of the tribal communities, they have sickle cell trait. And if before marriage, the boy and the girl knows that they have sickle cell trait and they don't marry, then this disease can be avoided. Thirdly, we are, as Dhanjalji said, we are setting up more than 740 schools. we didn't have any teachers for last 20 years. Most of the teachers, they were either ad hoc or temporary. Now the cabinet has given us approval of recruiting 38,800 teachers in next 2 years. And we will be setting up 452 schools at the remotest blocks of the country with a budget of 30,000 crore in next 3 years. Thank you.
Excellent, great achievements. In fact, this takes me back to the days when we initially, when Dr. Vijayaditya was the Director General of NIC, sat with him and tried to understand as to which are the projects doing well. So there were three things happening at that time. One was the land record, second was property registration, and third was the transport. And then he said that, why don't you go to Majuli? Never heard of that place. Why don't you go to Temi? Never heard of that place. Why don't you go down to a remote village, some 50, 70 miles in Thiruvananthapuram, and go and see how this property registration project is working. So that was a challenge. He said it's not easy to explore India. And he used the term NIC is equivalent to mainstreaming the marginalized. And technology actually made it happen. So when we talk about technology, both a boon as well as a bane. While all the projects today, whether it happens to be PMGSY, land records, or the tribal development, but technology has the the negative part, which is the obsolescence cycles are very, very fast. When it started in the beginning, it probably lasted, the solutions lasted 7, 8 years with a few patches, and it carried on. Then they started reducing. Talk of AI, ML, robotics, now we are going into quantum and so on and so forth. So governance paradigm from data governance, land governance, tribal governance, now we're talking about technology governance. How do we move forward?
Thank you. Thank you for reminding me for those days. I think we've really come a long way. I still remember those days when pre-NEGP era, then NEGP, and then getting into digital. Each of this program has its own, I should say, strengths and had really looked at the different aspects of our digitization journey over the time. And if you look at the last 5, 6 years of Digital India program, it is not only that the way IT in governance has really accelerated, but more importantly, the ecosystem around it. Because for any IT system, its adoption is its key success. How is it being adopted at the ground? And how it's been really taken by the people who have to really use this system. And that is where the whole digital infrastructure which got set up as a part of Digital India program, be it broadband, be it mobile revolution, or be it data revolution in the country, has really complemented or really added to this whole journey of digitization of India or Digital India, so to say. And today, if you look at it, I don't think there's any organization or any department or even any state government or any district level organization, digitization or digital transformation is the basic thing which is happening. It's a kind of sorted problem that you need to go, and people have really been not only going digitization, they're actually thinking that how do they really take, what should I say, leverage this potential of digitization which they have done, or all this data we have accumulated over time. And that is now we have been started saying we had an era when we had, I remember a year when everybody was only talking of dashboards and dashboards, then we came to dashboard of dashboards kind of a thing. And I think now is the time with all that data and all, we really need to move towards getting into more of a, what should I say, a proactive governance, wherein now you have the data. Let me give you a simple example of scholarships. A child start getting scholarship from class 1. And now when from class 1, he'll be eligible for class 2 in most of the cases, for class 3, and this year he has to go till at least 12th, and if not further graduation. So why is it every time child has to come and apply for the scholarship? I mean, you just get his performance, whether he has passed a particular class, and continue his scholarship. Maybe a consent is needed. So whole paradigm of, as you say, the governance has to go where it's a proactive delivery, as we have already started seeing in some sectors, like insurance and all, where it is more revenue driven. But in government also, that kind of a more our focus. And today we are in a position, because we have accumulated with digitization so much of a data around it. You look at our passports, look at our driving licenses, when they're expiring, we should get a kind of a, not only we should be reminded of this, the process of these renewals should be so simple. There is a digital, why is I have to fill all the form all over again? I just go update couple of parameters and my application is done. The whole user experience now has to. Particularly when we are talking of, now making of another aspect of the inclusive governance, where we want everybody to come into this thing, and there you have to really make it simple to access these services. And today I can say with a lot of confidence and pride, it is very much. It's only that we have to change our perspective, that we are not obliging people by giving services. We are giving, we have to look the way private sector looks at it as far as giving services to our citizens is concerned, and how to make it very simple, very easy. Not only for the people who are privileged people who are in the hinterlands, people who are at the last mile of this delivery of services, who are below poverty line, who are socio-economically this thing. So that's one aspect. So I always say today is a time of predictive governance, today is a time of proactive governance, and today is a time of inclusive governance. Why I'm saying inclusive? Like now with these things like chat GPT and all those language translation happening, it is now possible that you can talk to any IT system in the language you would like to, and if you cannot really write, you can even speak in that language, and that can be on the fly translated to an instruction which machine understands and respond to you. And we've already seen this now. Indian languages also, these solutions are maturing. So that's another aspect, because if we could do this, people even who have, in our our demography is very, very diverse. So people who are challenged by education, who are challenged by language or dialect, or are not that IT savvy, with a simple mobile phone, they should also be able to access services with as much of a simplicity and ease. And that is where, people will be truly empowered, which has been the underlying theme of Digital India program, empowering people with the power of technology. So that's where we need to really go. Now, responding to your concern, particularly governance of technology. Technology, as you've seen, earlier it was every 5 years it was changing. Now it's kind of, it's a continuum cycle. Every day you see a new thing, and that's there to kind of put into disruptions. So I think not only, so this has to be handled at two levels. One is at the procurement level. And second thing, on the development of the systems as is concerned. So the procurement side, it's been, and also the whole methodology of designing and developing this. And that's why this whole paradigm of agile development, where you are never finishing a system incomplete. You do a system, one iteration you have done, then you get to another iteration. So you're always mentally ready that this system and its specifications and technology will change as we go. We're talking of sprints. We are not talking of in terms of phase 1 and phase 2. So the whole system development methodology has to change. In terms of technology procurement, it is becoming, with cloud computing on the anvil, and it's being democratized now. And in India also, we have seen not only government, so much of a private sector digital infrastructure and cloud is happening. With cloud, the advantage is you are really being not concerned what is that. You simply have to ask. You're not thinking that I have bought this server or this technology, now I have to rent for 5 years. You simply have to ask, and the next 6 months you can say, now I was using CPUs, I now need to do a lot of AI processing, I need few GPUs. You simply have to go and ask for these GPUs. So this procurement of infrastructure and its deployment has become far more easier, and I can say it has become quite agile. I use one stack today, I use, let's say, SQL Server today, tomorrow I want to go to Oracle. I really don't have to think, oh, I bought 5 years licenses, what will I do? I have to not answer on my files. So cloud has really added to that agility and is really helping us respond quickly. Let me give you an example. When I was at NIC and my colleagues are here, lot of national level programs were actually launched using NIC's digital infrastructure. And in none of these programs, any kind of IT systems have been bought. There were times when for doing any IT system, you had to spend months and months for doing RFPs and procuring IT infrastructure, servers, solutions, and then you need to really kind of launch things. So from concept of the program to making it live used to be 6 to 8 months and sometimes years this thing. In Digital India, we have seen within 2 weeks, sometimes within 6 weeks, we have been able to make program live. And Abhishek is here who has further accelerated the speed to this thing. So I think the availability of the ecosystem, cloud computing, open source, and the whole methodology which is going towards this put together is making this thing. But yes, for working this kind of a cycle, there has to be somebody at the lead level who has to really put a design in such a way so that it can accommodate these changes as they come onto this. Thank you.
Thank you. When we talk about India 2047, the GDP estimated at that time $27 billion. Per capita income, $21,000, and so on and so forth. The figures look very welcome, but they are daunting at the same time. Not going to happen till such time we actually increase our investments in education system, in higher education. We invest in research and patents, so on and so forth. So I would like to pose this problem as well as question to Mr. Sethi. How do we handle this moving forward so that we are able to fix this and harness, whether with technology or without technology?
Thank you very much. Privileged to have two of my friends, Abhishek and Ashish, in the panel. Ladies and gentlemen, I must thank Sameerji for honoring State of Odisha by giving us a gold medal in the category of e-resources for TLR. In fact, this is a very coveted award, and for a long time, we have been applying, particularly in my personal capacity wherever I had worked, and I'm very happy to say that this time I have made it. So thank you, Sameerji, for honoring us. I remember 3 years ago when I was Relief Commissioner in Odisha, Abhishek knows very well, I handled a monster cyclone called Fani. That time the whole country was in the election mode, and the election had just been concluded in Odisha. That was on 29th of April 2019. Honorable Chief Minister being in Delhi, and all other officers were very much fatigued. And for quite some time, I think from 25th of April onwards, the IMD had been predicting some cyclone somewhere. They have been showing the path from Sri Lanka, and never there was a prediction that it will be heading to Odisha. Though I was keeping a track on that, and on I think, just 48 hours before, they said that this will be hitting a town called Puri. And we had been, preparing. And the whole world knows how we handle the monster Fani. New York Times wrote in the headline that why did the monster cyclone Fani did not kill 40,000 and it killed only 40. The context is that in the year 1999, there was a super cyclone in Odisha. Those days, the cyclones were not named, and that took away precious 10,000 people. And the devastation was so enormous that the government of the day did not come back, and it has not yet been able to, show its strength. And the government which came to power, they built on the capability of the state. They became very responsive to the needs of the people, to the issues of climate change, and they built large number of cyclone shelters, embankments, and we have been talking about here IT. There is a dominance of IT, but they did IT, but they also built on the social processes. Like when there was a cyclone like Fani, so the electricity was out and all communications were out. And the electricity in a district called Puri did not come up for another 30 days. And the people, you remember that the people could come to the street if there is a shortage of water and the food. So, but there was nothing such happened. The mobilization happened in such a way that we were appreciated by Government of India, by United Nations and everywhere. What I wanted to say is that over a period of 2 decades, the government has also been working with the people, the social processes. And when you have a over-dominance of IT, I think, sometimes you lose track of the social processes that you should be also looking for example. Because I got this insight by working as a cyclone manager. Like there are people on the hilltops in the inaccessible areas. And if you don't have people to reach out to those elderly population or people with physical disabilities, so I'm sure you are leaving those people to die. And there was a time in British India that we all the time we criticize British government that 60 million people died in India because of hunger and poverty during the British rule, or they call it unrule. And they are so unresponsive. But today it is not possible because there is so much of democracy has become deep-rooted. The people are so responsive. If they find that you are not doing what you should have done, I think they will challenge you at the election time or otherwise on a daily basis. And you might have come to know that there are two things which are ruling government of Odisha. One is a 5T principle. I think there is a talk in various media, and the 5T basically means technology, transparency, teamwork, timeliness, and leading to transformation. And this is a philosophy which cuts across all the departments. So if you have to, if there is a new technology, it must be adopted, whether it is agriculture, whether it is fishery, whether it is veterinary, or either it is data science or artificial intelligence, machine learning, and all that. So you have to adopt this technology. And it must really be transparent. And there is another philosophy which governs the state of Odisha, that is called Mo Sarkar. There is a philosophy which is driven in very deep home in every government officer, that you get salary from the taxes which are paid by the common man. So whenever you go to a government office and they will be offering, there is a reception counter, and there all the 5T charters, the Mo Sarkar principles are written in the local language. You will be given water, and your telephone number will be noted down, and this will be paid to a kind of a database. And the person who went there got some service or got some responses. You will get some random calls, either from the secretary of the department or from the minister or from the Honorable Chief Minister himself. And this has been a practice for the last 3 years from 2019. So if the response is negative, I think something will happen to the officer concerned, but then the systemic improvements do take place. For example, I was revenue secretary, and Mr. Vora, who has done some good work in land reform. So earlier, for a case of a mutation, like you purchase the land and you need to get your ROR, records of right, in your name. And it used to take, there was no time limit. It could take for 3 months, 4 months, 2 years. I remember when I joined as a sub-collector in a tribal district more than 20 years ago. So during one of the hearings, one tribal fellow came and said that I have been running to the revenue inspector for my ROR, and every time I go there, he asks me a goat or a hen or some money. And for 4 years, I am not getting an ROR. And this is basically a copy of the old document. His house was burnt some times back, and it is a natural thing that one can get a certified copy. But that was not given. But today, in Odisha, after your registration, within few hours, within the day, your ROR would be issued. So what I want to say is that we have used technology, and we have become very responsive, and these, the people's expectations are also rising from day to day. There are timelines, like, for example, for delivery of.
We need to actually move on to Abhishek ji, if you could wind up.
Okay. So my point is that, the 5T principle or more Sarkar principle, these are very dynamic in nature, they're evolving in nature, the expectations are people are increased, the standards also are kept increasing from time to time. You talked about the higher education art preparedness. Similarly, we would like the best of the education to be offered, like the award that you have given us, it is for e-resources. Earlier, if you have to really find books for your library or the journal, you have to pay a lot of money. It was not possible to give some to 2,500 colleges and 1,600 universities. If you have to buy the costly journals from the Elsevier or Ebesco and all that, then you have to pay, I think, thousands of crores. It is not possible. With 12 crores of rupees, we have got subscription, and it's an open Athens, login system, that a child, an undergraduate student or a PG student or a scholar or teacher can get access and can download any material that he or she waits. So as I said that, we are gearing up, we are doing a lot of things that we need to improve our education system so that by 2044 we become a very rich nation. I have no time, so this is all that I thought I should just say.
That's
Thank
wonderful.
you very
In
much.
fact, the road in front of us is pretty wide and long. And I'm sure moving forward there would be hurdles. But yes, we have achieved quite a lot. Welcome, Abhishek ji, for taking time out and being with us. If you look at your own journey, you've been a digital man throughout, for a very long time, from MyGov to NEGD to DIC. Although you've had probably the longest stint in different avatars, in different positions. India today boasts of the largest number of unicorns, also the largest startup ecosystem, largest number of UPI transactions equivalent to probably all the cards put together anywhere in the world. There has definitely been an economic impact of digitization and digitalization too. So far it is visible. How do we take it to the next level, that when we talk about 2047 and X maybe 25, 26 or $27 billion, how is it that we accelerate it and make it contribute in a larger perspective? Over to you.
Thank you, Guru Sharan. And first and foremost, I apologize for being late for this very important session. I got stuck in a meeting that continued longer, but I was keen to especially hear from the stalwarts who are there on the panel, right from Neeta Verma ji to Ashish, who has done great work in Kumbh and doing great work in rural development, to Vishnu, my batchmate. Both of them are my batchmates, incidentally. And Vishnu has excelled, as he mentioned, about how you use leverage technology for disaster prevention, and now, of course, using it for educational outcomes. I wish we had longer time so we could have heard more about from him. And Navaljeet ji, the work that he has done for the Tribes India and is really phenomenal. So it's indeed a privilege to be here. And coming to what Gursharan mentioned to me, like when he was mentioning about digital avatars, I was thinking whether we have gone into a metaverse and looking into avatars and looking into how we will see technology unfolding. So while we, as he mentioned, we have seen a great impact happening in the last few years with regard to how India has used digital technologies for transforming governance, empowering people, and ensuring that services reach to the people in a better manner. And we all are aware of the story of whether it's the Aadhaar or the UPI, digital payments, or the DigiLocker, or the entire ecosystem which is transforming healthcare, education, agriculture, skilling through multiple projects. But we need to also look on, like it's right that we have built transformational projects, platforms through the India Stack, whether it's Diksha for giving education to K-12, eSanjeevani for telemedicine, or the vaccination platform for vaccinating not only for COVID-19, but now being transformed to become the universal vaccination engine, or the agriculture. In the recent budget, there was an announcement with regard to the project that will be taken up in agriculture, which will transform the way farmers use inputs and access markets for increasing their incomes. So while we are doing so, what we need to look at, I would like to mention, when we are especially thinking of 2047, though in technology field, one should never make predictions beyond 5 to 10 years, because if you look at, like when we were asked to make our roadmap from technology for the next 25 years, I asked my team to look back at 25 years back. If we go back 25 years from today, it will be what, 1997, 98? So in that point of time, had any one of us would have been predicted the impact technology will make in the 25 years. So while with that caveat, I think still if we have to think of, and especially from the point of view of India, I will try to make what we need to do in the next 5 to 7 years, and that will build the foundations for going up to 1947. So today we are at a cusp where we are a stage wherein multiple departments are implementing multiple projects and the citizens are benefiting greatly. What we need to do next is that how do we connect these silos, how do we connect these individual systems into an integrated manner so that citizens can access services in a whole of government approach? How do we ensure that a citizen is not concerned whether he has to go to rural development or to Panchayati Raj or to agriculture or to cooperation or to any other department for accessing a service? A citizen knows only Sarkar. He knows he should have one common entry point of the government. He makes the request that I want a ration card or I want health, I want any kind of benefit. Within the government, the back end of the government should be able to allocate it to various ministries which are there and ensure that the citizens gets the service. So that is what we need to aspire for, that is what we need to go for, in connecting disparate systems, giving it a whole of government approach and ensuring that citizens are serviced better and they get a better quality, better experience while doing with the government. The second thing that we need to do is that very often all the welfare schemes and all the measures that we are implementing is very often a citizen applies for these services. It's the citizen to government. Like very often the responsibility under our scheme of things is the government to deliver services, but very often we make citizen to apply for a scholarship, to apply for a pension, to apply for a PM Kisan. So instead of that, can we think of turning it around and can we think of ensuring that entitlement-based delivery of services is there? If the government knows, if there is a beneficiary about whom we know that he is belonging to a particular category which is entitled for scholarships, and we also know from the education database that he is also a student and is eligible for a scholarship, is there a need for him to apply for the scholarship? Can we turn this around and say that government will proactively offer you the scholarship? The money will reach into bank account. We'll take one-time consent from the citizens for using the data that we have and ensuring that anything that is due to him is given to him. If the land records say that somebody is a farmer and that ensures that he is entitled for a PM Kisan benefit, should he need to apply for that or can we give it to him automatically? So that kind of paradigm shift we are trying to build. We have already built a project called My Scheme, myscheme.gov.in. What it does is that very often what we realize that another pain point that citizens had in accessing services was that very often the beneficiaries for whom a scheme is designed, they don't know that there is a scheme that exists. Because some obscure department will be offering that service and people will not know its URL or the app, even if it's online, and they will never be able to know that there is a scheme that can give them benefit. So we said that can we kind of map all the schemes that the government is implementing, put up in various verticals, and try to see which are the eligibility conditions that are common, and instead of citizen going to multiple websites, he goes to myscheme.gov.in, says that I am so and so, I am 40-year-old, I am from Bihar, I am a farmer, I am my annual income is 10,000 rupees, 20,000 rupees, and based on that, the system throws up, these are the schemes that you might be eligible for. So that scheme discovery engine is already built, it's already live on myscheme.gov.in. So that allows citizens to discover schemes. That also will allow in the next phase for them to apply for schemes then and there, so that he doesn't need to go to multiple portals to apply. He can apply from then and there after seeing the eligibility. And when he's applying, there also we are building a principle called Ask Only Once. If the government system knows about something about a particular citizen, we just ask him, are you agreeing, we take his consent. Suppose his DigiLocker data with regard to Aadhaar, with regard to PAN card, with regard to driving license, with regard to his academic certificates, says that yes, his date of birth is this. Government knows it, in one of the government databases there, and his address is this. Then we will not ask him to prove that again. We'll just take his consent if he agrees to that. If he says he wants to change his address or something, it's a different matter. But if he gives his consent, then we will not ask the citizen to prove the same credential again and again, which is going to reduce the hardship that citizens have in accessing that service. And after he is applied, the same portal will allow him to track the benefit of that service. Like when is the service being delivered, and whether it's meeting the SLAs, will meeting the citizen charter for the delivery of that service. So that's the one way in which it's being architected, which will ensure that citizens are able to access services in a more easier manner. The second thing on the same platform that we are trying to build is that can we use eligibility conditions of a one scheme and share that data and information with the consent of the user to another department and ensure proactive delivery of services. Like for example, if Manrega beneficiaries are poorest of the poor, they are doing 100 days of wage labor, they are getting, they're doing physical labor to get the whatever is guaranteed to them by the Manrega Act, then if they are eligible for that, they might also be eligible for, say, Ayushman Bharat Health Insurance Scheme, the PMJ scheme. So if this information is shared, and if that database of PMJ is not matching this, can the health department, NHA, decide to offer them health insurance proactively without they applying to it? So that will again change the way we look at the government to citizen interface. Instead of citizen approaching the government, can the government reach out to citizens and offer him services in a proactive manner? So that's something which is possible today with the state of technology that we are living in. That's totally possible. All it requires is a very seamless way of exchange of data between various government departments and offering it. The other main development that I see happening in the next few years is making services available in Indian languages, in all Indian languages. So very often all government websites, portals, they offer services in English, Hindi, and maybe a few regional ones offer in their own languages. Odisha will do Odisha, but Odisha will not do Tamil. Tamil Nadu will not do Odia. So if we can, the Bhashini project which is being built up, it is going to ensure that multiple services are available in all Indian languages, and not only text access in multiple Indian languages, even a voice-enabled services which are there. The Bhashini APIs, bhashini.gov.in is the portal. The Anuvad tab on bhashini.gov.in allows seamless speech-to-speech translation, speech-to-text, text-to-speech, and text-to-text translation. The plugins, the APIs which are being developed there will allow any department to integrate that and ensure that their services are available in all Indian languages. The Bhashini app, which is live on the Play Store and the App Store, allows you to do the same thing on a mobile platform. So language is going to be the next big thing, and we hope that we are already doing a pilot on the Umang platform, wherein citizens can go to the Umang platform and ask for a service. Just like you ask Alexa, the Siri, the Google Assistants, you can go and say that, hey Umang, how do I get a passport? So it can offer that. We have also tested a pilot on integrating the same service on a WhatsApp interface, because we realize that many citizens are not very comfortable in going to websites or going to apps and downloading them, entering CAPTCHA and identifying traffic lights or identifying cars or identifying zebras in many cases, because that makes access more and more difficult. So instead of that, if voice becomes the input, and this has been tested, wherein people go ask on a WhatsApp voice note, how do I get PM Kisan scheme? Or what is PM Ujjwala scheme? The reply comes back on voice. And the same service can also be offered on a feature phone, on which people can call a toll-free number, give input by voice, the backend processes it and gives the information back to the citizen on voice. So that would be true inclusion, wherein anybody sitting anywhere in India can access such a service on the mobile platform. So all this will of course transform governance services, with the other investments that are being made in pushing electronics manufacturing, in ensuring that a fab is set up. The path ahead, and if you look at 2047, is going to be quite disruptive. So the normal modeling that our GDP will be $27 billion and all might work with the normal economic theory. But if we look at the disruptive impact of technology, disruptive impact of providing access to information, and the disruptive impact of the power of 1.4 billion people that can achieve, this number can be breached. This number can go much ahead. So I will not risk making a prediction, but I can only say that the path on which we are on, it's only going up and no looking back. And with the impact of the billion-plus Indians, we will surely achieve the place that we are destined to achieve by 2047. So that's all I wanted.
Well, thank you so much. That's excellent. In fact, three takeaways here. You also said what we've been discussing just before you joined in, that the planning actually should be with the horizon of 25 years, but to keep first 5 years and then next 5 years, because that is the only way the road is going to open up in front of you. Second is the demand side governance. It's very important. Third is interoperability, because now every other department is also, which is what Kapoor Saab, you also talked about, that how is it that the benefits, which is what the tribals can, with the the help of any other department, could also be brought in. Same is the story with the Department of Land Resources. So quickly, just to wind up, I wanted to hear from you about the road connectivity in LWE areas, because that is something that's been lagging forever. But now there is a renewed focus on that. So probably in the next as many years, whatever the road construction has happened, the milestones have been achieved. But road connectivity in LWE, why has it suffered? And now when it has started, what's the road ahead?
Yeah, so the government is going ahead in a very big manner to connect the LWE areas. And there have been many challenges. What you have to realize is that once a road is built, road is the first ray of development that goes into that area. And once the road is built, that area becomes the mainstream. Now then everything can go. The security forces can go, health services can go, education can go, economic integration with the market can go. So we face a lot of resistance still in many areas while building the roads. But let me tell you, we are getting there. More and more roads are being connected. More and more bridges are being built in those areas, especially on the borders of the districts, borders of the state, where those ridges and rivers used to be the dividing line and gave refuge to such forces. Now more roads and more bridges are being built. And yes, in the next 2 to 3 years, with the effort of both state government and central government and the amount of funds that is being given there, most of these areas will be well connected.
Thank you. Kapoor Saab, most of these roads also pass through the tribal areas. So how is it that the Ministry of Tribal Affairs, and when we talk of interoperability, with the help of technology and otherwise, in terms of policy, collaborating with the rural roads?
If you have heard Honorable Prime Minister's speech on 15th of August 2021 as well as 22, he has talked about saturation based on gap analysis. So all the roads which are in remote areas, LWE areas, as far as our ministry is concerned, based on Antodaya mission data, we analyzed gap analysis of 1,45,000 districts, villages, out of which 1,17,000 villages are tribal villages which have more than 25% population. Out of those villages, we identified 36,428 villages which have population of more than 500, and 50% of them, they are tribal. So we are saturating with the help of STC, Scheduled Tribe component, which is more than 1 lakh crore every year, and major component is of rural department. Roads, electricity, water, health services, education, water supply, irrigation. If there is a possibility of bank, then bank or post office, and lastly, the livelihood activities like Vandhan Vikas Kendra. So this is a big initiative of about 12 major ministries. We are in a saturation mode, and already we have identified and given funds to 15,000 villages in last 2 years, and I'm very hopeful by 26 we'll be saturating these 36,000 villages.
Excellent initiative. Thank you so much. Neetaji, your concluding comments before we wind up the discussion.
No, I would just like to say there are two aspects we need to be really working on. First is, with so much of a digitalization, we have amassed so much of a data, but we are still not leveraging that data to the way we should be leveraging. We really need to up our efforts, go beyond dashboards, create insights from these data, and get into whether it is our policy making, whether it's delivery of services, or whether it is going on to identification of beneficiaries, and whether it is fraud prevention. Everywhere data can play a big role. So a lot of focus on making the real sense out of this data and making this whole process more effective and efficient is one aspect. Second aspect, with the kind of development we have seen in the language technologies, we've been talking for this for so many years. We really need to get into leveraging these technologies to get into a truly inclusive governance. As Abhishek was saying, you have designed a scheme, but the person for whom you have actually designed the scheme is today still not in a position to avail that scheme. Either is not aware, even if it's aware, system is not really at that level he or she can directly interact. The basic thing like getting a ration card, becomes a challenge when you're trying to help people around you. So how do you make that whole delivery of service inclusive and a good experience? And that today I very strongly believe with AI, ML, with language technology, with data is very much possible. This is the most exciting time to really do e-governance applications, which really give that wow factor, Thank you.
Well, thank you so much. With this, I thank our esteemed panel, Abhishek ji, Naval ji, Vishnu ji, Ashish ji, Neeta ji, Bora ji is just left. And with this, I invite everyone, let's go in front of the stage and do a group photograph.